Welcome to another showing of the drunken movie reviews. My name Yeah, boss. No, it's just nodding off real quick. Yeah, you told me to suit up, so I put these on the suit. Yeah, no, I know. I'm just working hard, man. Yeah, no, I'm hired. I've been here, working here forever. What are you talking about? Fired? What's up, guys? This is the first of what should be hopefully many reviews. This is Dubfeat movie reviews. It is a double feature. Today's double feature would be Jojo Rabbit, The Great Dictator. And the main goal is to analyze both films and then bring them together to show the overlaps and show their significance within a critical review. That's the plan today. Don't worry about Damien. He's headed to rehab. He may have lost his job, but I mean, you never know. He might be back. Yeah, don't worry about him. He'll be fine. So anyways, let's dive right into Jojo Rabbit. Jojo Rabbit, brilliant film, brilliant director, Taika Waititi, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He pretty much crafted together a brilliant story based off of the innocence of a child who absorbed the ideas of the Nazis during World War II. He got the idea from his mom, which is funny. His mom insisted that he make the movie, which I'm glad that she did, because it's pretty much one of the best new movies that have come out recently. So, highly recommended. Who is the runner-up for the most Nazi kid in the failing Nazi party at that time. The movie takes place in the early 1940s. Pretty much shows the fall of the Nazis, but the backlash and the control of the Nazis still in Germany and across the countries that they were invading and occupying. What makes this movie get crazier is when Jojo discovers that there is a Jewish girl inside his, pretty much inside the walls of his house. Now he has to fight between the balance of understanding why that person is there, in addition to just fulfilling his Nazi goal as just, extermination and understanding of all Jews. And it's crazy that this story even is able to be pulled off in a humorous stance, but Taika brilliantly did so. I mean, he pretty much breaks it down from a perspective where you get the idea this kid is very dedicated to being something that he shouldn't be, as many kids do. They follow some silly shit and, life progresses on. Jojo Rabbit, directed by Taika Waititi, stars Roman Griffin Davis, who plays Jojo. He's the protagonist in the film. Thomasin McKenzie, she's the Jewish girl in the attic, which we'll get to. Scarlett Johansson, who plays Rosie, his mother. And Taika Waititi, who plays the imaginary friend Hitler to Jojo. Pretty much there's other secondary characters that play a major role, like Sam Rockwell, Rebel Wilson, Alfie Allen, and Archie Yates, who is Yorkie. That's Jojo's quirky best friend, who's just about his age, but is just as reflective on the World War occurring as any little kid would be, just like Jojo. But the movie is amazing. Probably one of the best movies seen this year. I guess some greater takeaways is just how simply but brilliantly shot it is. How it shows the mother, Rosie, having a different view compared to her son Jojo, yet she still raises him. The story is unique because it shows you two sides of the coin. Initially, from the trailers, you can't really tell exactly, is this movie going to show how Jojo embraces the Nazis, or whether he's going to learn and, change his views upon, further discovery of how the world is. But as the movie unfolds, you get a good idea of a young mind growing into something more than just a simple one way street. His mother, Rosie, plays a big role in that, because throughout the film she constantly says she hates the war, but she supports her country. And she always says love is the bigger thing, the more important thing over violence and war and destruction and killing. Jojo, being a little kid, he's more like, I have to make sure I do my part as a Nazi and destroy all the Jews and win the war and do his part to win the war. He was down to the point where he's picking up scrap metal for the war effort just to further the cause of the war. So the movie brings a bigger lesson, I guess, if that makes sense. The lesson is, to accept others. And I think, though it's technically not a satire, because the satire reflects on current societal themes and things going on, I think it still technically is, because of the fact of the rise of Nazis and all that nonsense that is popping up in the news. So the relevance of it is still there, regardless of not 1940s Nazis running around, but Nazis unfortunately are still running around. So I would definitely say the shining acting throughout every single character involved. I guess the big standout in the secondary department would be Scarlett Johansson and Sam Rockwell. Alfie Allen and Rebel Wilson still got to be mentioned, because they were simple background characters, but hilarious nonetheless. And obviously the weird sexual tension between Sam Rockwell's character and Alfie Allen is hilarious, but also explains the type of Nazi character he was. He's kind of like the underdog, helping out the other characters throughout the film, so he's awesome. Simply put, I think this movie does above and beyond justice to a simple idea of Nazism, and shows it from a child's perspective, and how quickly that viewpoint can change when you're exposed to actual humanity. Obviously, these are going to be spoilerish, but Rosie, she's the one that had Elsa in her hidden attic, and by doing so, she put herself in harm's way, but she also knew the risk of doing so for the protection of a young Jewish girl. The parallels to that would be Jojo's character discovering her and thinking the most outright, like, this is a monster, this is a gross Jew in my attic hiding, and I need to either expose, destroy, or learn from it in the whole process. And of course, he kind of does the best of all of those worlds, down to the point where, he actually starts to fall for the Jewish girl in the attic, which is funny, because that's the least Nazi thing you can do, as Hitler tells him later on in the movie. But yeah, it's a great feat, and I think it's 150% worth the view. I gave it a 5 out of 5 feet for my review, and yeah, let's jump into The Great Dictator. Now, The Great Dictator is a 80-plus-year-old movie, and this one is a 100% routed right into the world of satirical films of that time period, because this is definitely in the heart of the rise of Adolf Hitler. For the sake of comedy, Charlie Chaplin changed the name to Adenoid Hinkle, which is great because it's just such a silly name to match such a stupid, silly piece of crap person that he parodied. So, the movie's great because you get all these classic slapstick and silly silent era-esque behaviors throughout the film. The story moves quickly for something that's, I believe it's a little over 2 hours long, but the story moves quickly with a point in place. It jokes around, it pokes fun at different types of characters, but just like with Jojo Rabbit, the main source of inspiration is humanity. Humanity plays a big role in terms of accepting people and understanding people. So Charlie Chaplin wrote, directed, and did everything in his power to make this movie. It was a stressful time because these were the times in his history where he was not very liked by the U.S. Many factors led from Marxism to, honestly, the opposition against the Nazis, because he made it very clear that he was not for any of what they were doing and any of the things that they were involved in. Mind you, this is a little bit before his full craziness. Obviously, he was crazy from day one, and once he started expanding, Hitler, I mean, once he started expanding outward, things grew scarier, but a lot of the politics involved in it was, let's just keep quiet because we don't want to escalate. At this time, I don't even think the U.S. was involved in World War II, so all these factors were in play in terms of how people felt about Chaplin. Nonetheless, Chaplin felt the need to make this film because the historical significance of pointing out these flaws in the World War. So, Chaplin plays Hinkle, the dictator of Tumania, as well as the Jewish barber who has a bout of mistaken identity later on in the film. Reginald Gardiner plays Schultz, who is a close ally to the Jewish barber in the beginning of the film, where they're pretty much fighting together in World War I. They pretty much save each other's asses, and they sort of build a bond in the First World War. Of course, they were both noted as Jewish individuals, so come World War II, even though they fought in World War I, they were part of the people being persecuted later on in the film. The film demonstrates the ghettos, which were created pretty much by the Nazis, where it was the only livable territories left for the Jews, even though they still got persecuted and they still got rounded up in those areas. So Hinkle rose to power and made all these claims and changes that would seemingly benefit it. Tumania. See, this is going to be the tough thing, going back and forth between calling it Tumania and Germany and this and that, but I'm going to try to stick to the story plot as opposed to the real plot that this movie satirizes. Now, unfortunately for the Jewish barber and Schultz, because of their Jewish ancestry, they are hunted down and they are potentially almost killed. What eventually happens, though, is the Jewish barber escapes with Schultz, and as they escape, they think that he is Hinkle, the dictator. So with a bout of mistaken identity and a mix-up, Hinkle is confused for the Jewish barber, and the Jewish barber goes to give one of his infamous passionate speeches at the end of the film. The film speech is probably one of the best speeches in the history of film, quite honestly. It points out, as I mentioned before, the sake of humanity, the sake of embracing others, the sake of learning from others, and not to be pretty much a warmonger. And it was one of those things that I don't know how many people took that away from the film as a main meaning, but I mean, that was the main thing. I watched the film and I enjoyed it, and I've seen the ending before I even saw the movie, and it still built up to it, and it made it such an important ending to what was a sort of slapsticky, funny movie at the beginning. It brings a real livelihood to the overall story, and it makes it relevant to movies like Jojo Rabbit. That being said, with all the little tidbits of the plot that I've given out here, the movie is perfectly crafted. The timing is great. The storyline just flows perfectly, and it's a classic Chaplin with a good moral ending. It's actually his first, well, technically not his first, but it is his first main, thoroughly sound film. If you've ever seen Modern Times, there is a weird blend of sound in it, but it still manages to work as a silent film because there really is no speaking by Chaplin or the main characters, with an exception of a couple characters. But anyways, for his first sound film, it is a brilliantly crafted film, and it comes together perfectly with a strong message against the Nazi piece of shit Hitler. Once again, as I gave Jojo Rabbit, I gave it 5 out of 5 feet. It deserved the 5 because it is thoroughly crafted, it is thoroughly acted, and it is a humane story that everybody should watch and see. So here comes the fun part. We get the overlap. Yep, not dancing again on screen. The overlap between these two films, Jojo Rabbit and The Great Dictator. The obviously overlapping piece between the two of them is Nazi Germany. One might be parodied full on for the sake of making it a comedy and giving that angle. I would say The Great Dictator seems to be more funny, and then it becomes very serious at the end, as opposed to Jojo Rabbit. It kind of bounces around with seriousness and comedy, ultimately leading to a very serious end plot where Jojo is literally running around in the middle of the war occurring right in the front lines of his home. In terms of overall shots, they both demonstrate the war differently. Once again, The Great Dictator demonstrates it a little more slapsticky and funny, like him shooting off the giant cannon at some point, which just becomes a big running joke, and his sort of the general tramp incompetence. But that can be perfectly paralleled with Jojo Rabbit, where he runs through the forest after Hitler encourages him to take a stand, and he grabs a grenade, it bounces off a wall, and he blows himself up and almost dies. So I guess those kind of have a similar overlapping tie back between each other. So yeah, both of these films, they demonstrate the darker side of the Nazis, which is good because there is a scene where they're hunting for the Jewish barber. He tries to hide out, as well as Schultz, and they show them literally, taking people out and pushing them down and fighting them just to get to a specific clause or cause. Same with Jojo Rabbit. Unfortunately, one of the characters that goes is Rosie, and it is one of the most poignant, depressing moments in that film, because just when Jojo Rabbit sort of starts to turn over a leaf, the first thing he sees as he's walking down is his mother's shoes at his eye line, realizing that his mom has been hanged for treason, pretty much. I actually watched this film twice, and the second time when I knew that scene was coming up, I'm like, yep, I'm out. I'm going to come back after that scene passes before I start blubbering tears all over myself. I guess that's another takeaway between the two. Jojo Rabbit had me crying like a baby. The Great Dictator had me reflecting but not crying. So yeah, those are some differences between the two. Just fun facts. Paulette Goddard was one of Charlie Chaplin's ladies. And actually, I think they ended up splitting up because of his dedication and chopping away and getting really obsessive with completing and making this film. So, tidbit there. Tidbit about the Hitler in Jojo Rabbit. He initially wasn't going to be played by Taika Waititi. He ended up getting told that if he wants to make this movie, he's recommended to play Hitler, and he was like, I don't want to do that. But Fox Searchlight pretty much said, if you're going to do this film, we'll let you do it, but you got to play Hitler. he didn't really see the vision, but once you see him in full Hitler get up, you're like, all right, I'm sold. And he pulls it off, honestly. From the Rotten Tomatoes aspect, Rotten Tomatoes provides Jojo Rabbit with 85% certified fresh, and The Great Dictator, 93% certified fresh. Both have a matching audience score. I mean, I get that 100% because they're both entertaining and audience attached films. They both, I feel like they bring a camaraderie to the audience, because I remember watching Jojo Rabbit and kind of getting that same feeling around me in the theater. With The Great Dictator, I watched that at home, but I could see that kind of same feeling coming about if I was in the theater watching this. So, yeah, they both are critically non-floppy, and damn, I don't know what else to tell you about either of these films other than, if you haven't seen them, go see them both. I highly recommend them. I think they both, as I mentioned before, they have an underlying theme of humanity. They have a underlying theme of comedy. Laughter keeps people going, even in sad, terrible stories, and I think that's something that we should all think about on a daily, as the world changes, as the world goes better, as the world goes worse. Humanity and comedy and happiness are important. Yeah, so this is the first edition of Dubfeat Movie Reviews. I hope you guys like what's coming out here. It'll get better. This is a sort of semi-practice run, but the first of its kind for me. Hopefully I'll get the ball rolling on it and keep churning these fuckers out. Yeah, let me know what you guys thought about both of these movies. Feel free to skewer me. Feel free to tell me I'm terrible, because we could get the other guy back in here, the drunken reviewer. He's definitely knowing what he's doing. So, anyways, see ya.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world, there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent and all will be lost. The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world, millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world. A decent world that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite!